final envelope in Ada Mercer's Zy-zicks inventory had been postmarked tomorrow. The handwriting was hers. Inside were 6 words. Whatever calls, do not play Reel 301. Ada read them twice beneath the mailroom's hanging lamp. It was August 18th, 1976. The postmark said Baker, California, August 19th. The envelope had been made from the yellow cover of Ada's own inventory folder. A dark half circle marked one corner where she had set down her coffee that morning. No one else had touched that folder. Outside, sunset stretched across Soda Lake in bands of copper and white. Palms stood around Lake Twende, their reflections trembling in water that looked almost black. Beyond them, the old buildings of the Zy-zicks Mineral Springs Resort held the day's heat behind blank windows. Ada turned the envelope over. There was no return address. From the radio room at the end of the hall came one clean mechanical click. Then the mail sorting bell rang. Ada had arrived at Zy-zicks 6 days earlier with 32 archive boxes, a portable typewriter, and instructions to separate history from rubbish. The California State University Consortium was preparing the property for use as a desert research station. Before biologists and geologists filled the rooms, someone had to inventory what the previous operation left behind. There was a great deal of it. Curtis Springer had begun developing his health resort at Soda Springs in 1944. Over the years, it acquired a dining hall, a library, a lecture room, a pool house, animal pens, guest rooms, and a building everyone called the Castle. His radio program was carried by hundreds of stations. Millions of packages passed through the operation. Enough mail that the nearby town of Baker had to build a post office to handle it. Now the shelves held jars without labels, order forms for products with astonishing names, stacks of testimonials, broadcast scripts, mailing lists, and 300 numbered transcription reels. Ada treated every object the same way. Description, condition, probable date, retain or discard. In the bottom of her canvas satchel was one object she had never managed to classify, a letter to her sister Miriam, written 3 years earlier and carried from assignment to assignment without a stamp. They had argued after their mother's funeral. Miriam said Ada could turn any life into labeled boxes because boxes never contradicted her. Ada replied that Miriam confused feeling deeply with behaving well. Both statements contained enough truth to remain unforgiven. Miriam wrote 4 times afterward. Ada read every letter. She drafted careful answers, correcting dates and explaining intentions, then found each answer too cold to send. Eventually, Miriam stopped writing. Ada told herself that silence was more honest than the wrong words. She had been carrying that conclusion in her satchel ever since. She did not believe an archivist's job was to approve of the past. The job was to keep it from changing its story after everyone who remembered the truth was gone. On her first afternoon, a telephone technician from Baker named Hal Brenner helped her identify the equipment in the radio room. Microphone preamplifier, he said, pointing with a screwdriver. Turntable, limiter. That cabinet fed the line going out to the stations. Can any of it still work? Hal looked at the cut cables lying on the floor. Not without electricity, a new transmitter, and a small act of Congress. He showed her the breaker panel. Every fuse had been removed. The outside line had been disconnected. Before leaving that evening, he tied the bare cable ends with a red cloth so no one would mistake them for live wires. Ada asked about the reels. 1 through 300 she said. "Does that sound complete?" Hal counted the empty slots in the storage rack. "Complete enough." "No 301? He smiled. "If you find it, charge it rent." Now, 6 nights later, Ada stood alone with a warning in her own handwriting. The sorting bell rang again. It sat above a wall of wooden mail slots, a simple brass dome once used to summon clerks when a delivery arrived. Its pull wire ended in a coil on the floor. Ada placed the future-dated envelope inside her locked document case. Then something scraped behind the sorting wall. Not an animal. The sound was too deliberate. Canvas moving across wood. One of the empty slots darkened. A tied mail sack pushed slowly through it, though the back of the cabinet stood flush against solid plaster. The sack dropped onto the sorting table. Faded ink on its side read, "Replies." Inside were 14 sealed letters and a metal reel can. The can was numbered 301. Ada did not touch it. She examined the letters first. Each bore an ordinary California address and a postmark from Baker. The names meant nothing to her. The dates did. August 20th, August 23rd, September 2nd. All of them lay in the future. Ada chose an envelope addressed to Mrs. Evelyn Bell in Fresno. The flap opened without resistance, as though the glue had never dried. The page inside began, "Dear Doctor, my husband has not slept through the night since our son left home. He will not speak about it. Please send whatever you recommend." Beneath those words, in different handwriting, someone had drafted a reply. "Dear Mrs. Bell, grief is not a mineral deficiency. No powder in the mail can make your husband say what he is afraid to say. Sit with him. Ask him where it hurts. If he cannot sleep, please take him to a real physician." The reply was signed with 2 initials. RCA. Motor engaged in the radio room. Ada heard a reel begin to turn. Reel 301 was still sealed in its can. Nevertheless, the playback machine at the end of the hall was moving. Its take-up spindle turned with no tape threaded through it. The glass level meters remained dark. Red cloth still bound the severed cables on the floor. From the monitor speaker came no static and no electrical hum. Only a woman's calm voice. "Dear Mrs. Bell," it said, "grief is not a mineral deficiency." Ada stepped closer. The voice continued reading the reply in her hand, word for word. When it finished, the spindle stopped. Ada returned to the mailroom and opened a second letter. A man in Riverside had written that his daughter no longer visited. He wanted a tonic that would improve his disposition. RC had answered, "There is no tonic for an apology. Begin with the truth. Do not explain what you meant. Tell her what you did." The machine in the radio room played that reply too. Ada opened a third. A young woman asked for something that would make a particular man love her. The reply said, "Anyone who promises to manufacture love is selling you the promise. Keep your money. Keep your good name. Let the man go." This time, when the recording finished, the voice added one sentence that was not on the page. "Ada, you have heard enough to leave." The reel spindle began turning backward. Ada should have taken the warning. Instead, she carried the sealed can into the radio room. An archivist did not leave an unidentified recording inside an impossible mail sack. That was the professional explanation. The truer explanation was that the woman's voice had sounded tired, and Ada had spent her career learning how tired voices vanished from official records. She broke the paper seal. Inside the can was a 1/4-inch tape wound onto a grey metal reel. A typed label read "Private Replies. Ruth Calder, not for air." Ada mounted it on the machine. The equipment had no power. She checked again. Then she pressed play. The meter needles rose. Ruth Calder introduced herself as the resort's evening mail clerk. The year was 1959. She explained that people wrote asking for help she was not qualified to give. Some requests belonged with doctors, some belonged with lawyers, some belonged with family members who had stopped listening. Ruth had drafted replies but lacked both the authority to send them and the courage to sign her full name. So she had recorded them after hours. One honest answer after another passed through the speaker. See a physician. Call your daughter. Leave the man who frightens you. Tell your friend you are lonely. Do not spend money you need for food on anyone's miracle. The recording was plain, practical, and kind. Then Ruth said, a broadcast can reach 300 stations and still answer no one. The tape clicked. Ada heard her own voice. It was older. Hal, I should have told you what I found. I kept the reel because no one would believe me. Now it plays every night, and each night there are more letters. Another click. Ada's voice again. Older still. Miriam, I received every letter you sent. Silence was easier than admitting I was wrong. Miriam was Ada's sister. Ada had not answered her in 3 years. The tape accelerated. Dozens of voices passed through the speaker. Not dead voices, not cries for help, but ordinary people speaking sentences they had written and withheld. I am sorry. I cannot come home. I would like to try again. Please stop sending money. I was proud of you. I was afraid you would say no. With every sentence, a mail slot slammed open in the next room. Across the courtyard, dry pipes in the old pool house began ticking from one end to the other. Ada looked through the radio room window. Lake Tuende reflected a building full of light. The actual resort remained dark. In the water, guests moved along bright walkways. Palms bent in a wind Ada could not feel. A radio mast stood where the empty sky should have been, and its red lamp blinked once for every unsent sentence. Ada crossed the courtyard to the water's edge. Behind her stood sun-faded walls, empty windows, and the quiet shapes of buildings waiting for a new purpose. In the lake, those same walls were freshly painted. The dining room glowed. Cars lined the drive. White chairs faced a platform near the palms. No reflected face remained clear long enough to recognize. Each person turned away just before Ada could see them, as if the past understood the difference between being remembered and being summoned. Something pale drifted beneath the reflected surface. Envelopes. Hundreds of them moved through the black water like slow fish, their addresses facing upward. None rose into the real lake. None became wet. They existed only in the bright resort below. From the dry pool house came a woman's voice saying, "Tell him, before winter." A man answered from the mailroom wall, "I did not know how to come back." The voices traveled through human-made pipes and severed radio lines. The spring itself remained what it had always been, water in a dry country, older than the resort and innocent of every promise made beside it. The tape ran faster. Ada pressed stop. Nothing changed. She pulled the reel from the machine. The voices continued. Back in the mailroom, all 14 future letters lay open. Ada had opened only 3. On the sorting table, a thick ledger waited beneath the hanging lamp. She recognized Ruth Calder's initials on its cover. The first half contained dates, names, and short descriptions of incoming mail. The second half contained replies, hundreds of them, written in the same firm hand. Near the end, Ruth had copied a paragraph 3 times. Words do not disappear when we refuse to send them. They remain with the person who wrote them. Given enough silence, they begin looking for another address. Below that, she had written, I thought recording the answers would be enough. It was not. A private reply is only another unsent letter. The final page held one instruction. If Reel 301 ever plays by itself, do not listen to the end. Put the answers on the line. Let them go where broadcasts go. The Reel will take every word you have not sent as payment. Ada read the sentence again. The future-dated envelope in her document case began to tear. She unlocked the case. The 6-word warning was changing. Whatever calls, do not play. Reel 301 had faded to 4 words. Do not play it. Then 3, do not wait. Ada understood what her future self had tried to prevent. In one future, she kept the Reel. She studied it, protected it, and waited for proof strong enough to make someone believe her. Each night, more unsent words found it. Each year, the warning grew harder to send backward. The archive would preserve everything and answer nothing. Ada carried Reel 301 to the control desk. She returned the tape to the machine and opened the old line switch. "There is no line," she said aloud. The switch answered with a firm mechanical click. Beyond the window, the reflected radio mast brightened. Ada lowered the microphone. The first letter lay before her. "Mrs. Bell," she said, "grief is not a mineral deficiency." The address vanished from the envelope. Ada read Ruth's complete reply, then the next, and the next. She did not imitate a radio announcer. She did not promise a cure. She read the words as one person speaking to another across a kitchen table. See a physician. Call your daughter. Leave the man who frightens you. Keep your money. Tell the truth without explaining it away. Outside, the reflected guests stopped moving. One by one, the bright resort windows went dark. The letters on the sorting table became blank sheets. Ruth's recorded voice softened until only Ada remained on the tape. "Miriam," the older Ada said through the speaker, "I received every letter you sent." Ada reached for the stop button, then she let the sentence finish. Silence was easier than admitting I was wrong. She leaned toward the microphone. "Miriam," she said, in her own present voice, "I was wrong." The tape snapped. Every light in the reflected resort went out. For one moment, Lake Twende held only stars. Then the real shoreline returned beneath them. The date stamp in the mailroom struck midnight once. The radio room needles fell to 0. Hal Brenner returned shortly after sunrise. He found Ada at the sorting table with an empty reel, 14 blank letters, and a ledger full of replies. "Long night?" he asked. Ada looked toward the radio room. The cables remained severed. Red cloth still covered the ends. "Did you ever hear of a mail clerk named Ruth Calder?" Hal thought for a moment. "No." Ada placed Ruth's ledger in an archive box marked "Retain, Correspondence, History." She did not mention the future postmark. It had disappeared from the envelope. The warning page was blank. Reel 301 contained no sound and no magnetic signal that Hal could detect. Perfect proof had lasted until the instant Ada chose to answer it. She found that she could live with the loss. Before driving back to Baker, Ada sat beneath the palms and wrote a letter to her sister. It contained no explanation of Zy-zicks, no impossible recording, and no defense of the previous 3 years. It said, "Miriam, you were right. I was wrong. I would like to come Sunday if the invitation still stands." Ada signed her name, sealed the envelope, and mailed it before she could improve the wording. The old resort at Zy-zicks became a desert research center. Students and scientists came to study dry lakes, changing climates, desert plants, and the long memory of the land itself. Ruth Calder's reply ledger remained in the archive. No employment record bearing that name was ever found. Years later, another archivist discovered a blank envelope tucked inside its back cover. It had no postmark and no address. On the front, in Ada Mercer's narrow handwriting, were 7 words. To whoever comes after the last word. Most people who open it find nothing inside. A few discover a sheet of yellow paper and a sentence they recognize as their own. It is never a warning. It is the answer they have been meaning to send. At Zy-zicks, the last word was never the promise. It was the reply. This has been an original Cactus Blossom Tale. Zy-zicks, Soda Springs, the Historical Health Resort, and the 1976 Desert Studies Center transition are real. Ada Mercer, Ruth Calder, Hal Brenner, Reel 301. The letters, recordings, and all supernatural events are fictional.